Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports, and you are on the record. A unique podcast, at least I hope so, that talks about the past 50 years, COVID, and the next 50 years of the sports business, where it's been, what the challenges were, and where it's going. And it started really 50 years ago. This is the first Miami Dolphin ticket ever for the old Miami Dolphins over 50 years ago. Less than $5 for this ticket. Average NFL revenues, less than $4 million at the time. If you're a baseball player, you're going to make about $26,000 at that time. And then George Steinbrenner sets the stage by buying the New York Yankees 50 years ago, $10 million. About 50 years after that, the industry was worth $1.3 trillion a year. Highly visible, highly controversial, and an industry worth watching. But yet, on March 11, 2020, the whole thing changes. Rudy Gobert tests positive for COVID, playing for the Jazz in Oklahoma City. Tire industry shuts down, losing $12 billion a week. How are you ever going to come back? Resilience, it did come back. And the roaring 20s in the 1900s, Yankee Stadium and otherwise, Spanish flu recovery gave way to a bigger and wider-ranging scale of recovery from COVID 100 years later. And look, the Yankees, obviously, $9-10 billion. Imagine Steinbrenner for $9-10 million. Steve Ross turns down an offer to buy the Miami Dolphins for $10 billion. Television revenues of the NFL, cumulative contracts, nearly $200 billion. NIL, nobody even knew what that was, now over $3 billion a year. And when you think about all of the numbers, it's a success after COVID because of three factors. One, survival of the fittest, uniqueness. Second of all, creativity in the context of taking the next step and standing out. And third, collaboration, cooperation, best practices. You put all of them together and you look at the next 50 years. Big challenges, Web 3.0, globalization. We're scared of AI. What are we going to do with it? NIL. Get the toothpaste back in the tube, for the metaphor. What about conference realignment? What about the franchise free agency, team free agency, player free agency, stadium development? All of that stuff, we need some defining and guiding moments. Well, luckily, this podcast can give you some of that perspective with some unparalleled cooperation with the Falk Institute of Sports at Syracuse University and the UNLV Global Sports Innovation Institute as well, along with the partnership that they had sponsoring the SEICon Development Conference with USA Today. Came back from the conference, had some interesting perspective. The content is great, but the podcast will hopefully take some of the issues that have been raised by these partners and take them to the next level with some interviews that I hope you're going to like. And the bottom line is, hopefully you'll have a good time, and you may even learn something in the process. So sit, don't go anywhere. Every week, we will theme it around major events and a mega interview, and hopefully you'll be entertained and you might even learn something. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, and you're on the record. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. You're on the record. It's Labor Day weekend, but you'll see this later on in the week. Beginning of the NFL season. Here at Camden Yards today, the Orioles close in on what they hope is a playoff berth. A big week for a number of events. And most important probably for everyone, the college football season, which inevitably leads to the college bowl season. And let's remember the 12-team playoff and the excitement this year. But let's also remember that the same effectively 43-team playoff format is still in place, which means the college bowl season entity headed by Nick Carparelli is stronger than ever. Executive director after being senior director at Under Armour, Big East, IMG, Notre Dame, Patriots. He is well suited for this role. A lot of people know Rich Clark succeeding Bill Hancock over at the CFP. This is an organization that should be hand-in-hand supplemental, and while everybody talks about the 12-team playoff, how about the other bowls? That begins on December 14 with the Celebration Bowl. We're already there. A Syracuse graduate in 1994, the SEICon conference in Vegas. He excelled. All about college sports and bowls beginning the season. I give you Nick Carparelli.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. A sports entertainment innovation conference, Vegas, about 50 panels, about 200 experts, and this is the first of many. This is going to be a franchise that exhilarates the opinion leadership of football, basketball, everything in the business. Frankly, we deal with issues that are always evolving, and the whole world about the college bowl season as currently defined, as defined before, and as defined the next few years, a lot of it's going to be in front of this guy, Nick Carparelli, who is the executive director of the college bowl season, college season,
Correct.
bowl season, college
bowl season.
Bowl season. Not what are you paid by the letter? You're not drop college? What other kind of bowl season?
Yeah, if I was paid by the letter, I would add college and maybe some other words. But.
College, the entrepreneurial impact of sports, Inc. Anyway, I'm always kidding. Great to see you. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So for people that don't understand, there are going to be a few, certainly a lot less than before, but there are a few that have focused only on the 12-team playoff. Mm-hmm. So talk about your organization as it relates to that.
So, bowl season is, we call it a celebration of college football. It's that 3-week time period in late December, early January where, 82 teams get to play an extra game. The first bowl game was the Rose Bowl back in 1902. We've been around for over 100 years. We've seen bowl season evolve, and obviously in the last 10 years, it's been a big evolution. The 14 playoff started 10 years ago. This year will be the first year of the 12-team playoff. That gets most of the attention, as it should. This great sport needs a great mechanism to crown a national champion. But all the other bowl games are equally important. We know college football, Rick, is not an even playing field. There's only so many Alabamas and Georgias and Michigans and Ohio States in the world. We need more postseason opportunities than just 12 for 130 institutions. So, I'm very fortunate in a position to be promoting the entire bowl system. I work together with all the commissioners of the major conferences. Just, back in 2 months ago in May, I had the opportunity to present to the 18 head football coaches in the Big Ten. And sure, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State was in the room, but so was Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Northwestern Illinois. You go on, there's more of those who are building programs and really look forward to those opportunities in December to reward their team for a successful season and to give the student athletes a great experience.
So every year we always, in boardrooms and media, always talk about, quote unquote, are there too many bowls? And people who answer that it's 6 and 6 and all, they don't quite understand the nature of what the answer ought to be as far as the economic impact and the graduation rates and the number of rosters and the cheerleaders and the support organizations and the boosters. So, give us your perspective on that question. Get that out of the way.
I could talk for a half hour and give you multiple answers in different directions on that. But, I tell you, that's a topic of conversation with these coaches often. Do you want to go to bowl games at 6 and 6? And they kind of laugh at me like, why are you even asking that question? There's 41 traditional bowl games. And then there's Survivor and Advance for the playoff bowl games now. So there's more than that. 82 teams. We've had 81 last year, 81 the year before, 83 the year before that. From a strict numbers standpoint, we have the right number of bowl games. But in terms of are they relevant, are they meaningful? Very relevant, very meaningful. The average bowl game outside of the CFP averages over 3 million television viewers. So to put that in perspective, other than the NFL, there's no other sports programming that routinely gets over 3 million television viewers in the month of December. In fact, the highest rated college basketball season a basketball game of the entire regular season last year was Duke, North Carolina at 3.2 million, and no other game was over 3 million. They're very meaningful. When you talk about economics, bowl games outside of the CFP distribute $100 million to the member institutions that participate in them. We did an economic impact study of the economic impact of bowl games in the 40 communities across the country, and it was $1.4 billion. And what's most important about that is it's at a time of year where people typically aren't traveling to go on vacation. You know, that week before Christmas, the week after Christmas, they travel to see their families. But to have tens of thousands of people spend money on hotel rooms, in restaurants in these communities across the country is extremely valuable.
So for the cynical media, and we've been in the business long enough, you dispute it and discount it. You take the craziest corporate name, you then add the empty seats, and you talk about how cold it is that night, and then you say this doesn't work, but you ignore the fact these are dollars for that stadium, dollars for that community, and those empty seats are a quadrant, plus the people who are there are avid fans anyway, so it's hard to deal with that. I'm sure it's even harder for you because that's your business.
It is, and a lot of it's perception, sure. And you turn on the TV in the fall, and you know, some team goes to Tennessee and there's 90,000 people, and that's what people expect. But that's unrealistic, you know, a week before Christmas. Some of these communities, you know, Montgomery, Alabama, Shreveport, Louisiana, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Conway.
You're right. Yes.
Sorry.
If there's 15,000 people there that all traveled to town and are staying in, that's 15,000 more people than would be there otherwise.
Obvious, no question.
And at that, and every bowl has a different goal. Some are meant to have a lot of people. Some are meant to be great television programming for ESPN and the other networks. And we talked about the television ratings before. Every bowl game is meaningful. Some of them for different reasons.
Yeah. So obviously it's a free market, and there are certain bowls, Sun Bowl, for example, CBS, and there are others where it's Fox has one or two, depending on the season. But it's effectively a CBS, ABC, ESPN, ABC world. Stability, not only with the 12 team in the BCS or the CFP, but I'm sure there is corporate and media support all the way through all of those bowls for the structure that is about to be deployed?
Absolutely. You know, while ESPN dominates the postseason in terms of broadcasting the games, obviously Fox is heavily invested in the regular season. They're heavily invested in the Big Ten and the Big 12. I mean, there are no Big Ten games on ESPN in the regular season next year. That's going to be an adjustment for people. So, you know, there's multiple networks promoting college football in general. ESPN's been great partners to the entire bowl system. I don't think they would necessarily disagree with me, although they might not like this comment, but I think the college football would benefit from the bowl system having more games on other networks. And I think you might see that evolve. ESPN themselves elected to sub-license some of their CFP games to other networks. So that'll continue to evolve like everything else.
So the whole notion of well, first of all, how many bowls will be ongoing for 2024/early 25 that are not part of the 12-team playoff?
That are not so there'll be 36 will not be a part of the playoffs. 6 will be a part of the playoff.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. So the relationship with the communities that you deal with are all 41, but it's the 36 that may need more love right now, right? I mean, in terms of feeling like they're in the overall system. You're spending a lot of time in that part of your job now, right?
Absolutely. You know, my job is to promote the system as a whole, to help each individual bowl game promote themselves. As we talked about, the 6 that are involved in the playoff are going to get most of the attention, but there's, you know, that the next set of bowl games after that you know, provide compelling matchups, compelling television. Some programs, they might be a little disappointed that they just missed the playoff, but there are a lot of programs that maybe likely will have overachieved during the regular season and are really excited to go to the Citrus Bowl or the Alamo Bowl or the Music City Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl. Pinstripe Bowl is a bowl that's close to my heart. I started that game back when I was at the Big East in partnership with the Yankees.
And Syracuse is big, always a participant. But do you sit in that press box outside, or can you go inside? You know how cold it is out there for people to sit in that press box?
I visit that press box.
Yeah.
But I don't stay there. I like to be on the sideline a little bit for that game too. The Yankees treat me great. They do pretty good business on one day in December when the stadium would otherwise be closed. So they treat me pretty well. Interestingly, you know, you talk about your how your worlds collide. We're here at SEICon, joint partnership between Syracuse, Falk School of Sports Management, and UNLV. I'm on the board of advisors at Syracuse. I'm a Syracuse grad. And when I worked for the Big East and started the Pinstripe Bowl, the very first Pinstripe Bowl, Syracuse played in the game. So that was a special day for me.
Well, and let's talk about SEICon for a minute. It is an incredible event. Brain Trust, Sean Garrity, let's not forget David Falk on the Syracuse side, Jay Vickers on the UNLV side. And it is a very difficult thing to put together when you're at the drawing board, because you have two institutions who don't have a lot of cultural history together, but then you put them all together and you realize they have common visions, and then you create something that's not only going to be here, but New York, Washington, and London and Abu Dhabi and a whole bunch of other places down the road. It's a remarkable vision and a remarkable process.
It is a remarkable vision, and more importantly, it's a remarkable launch. It's hard to start something like this. It's easy to have a vision. Who knows if the vision will ever be reality? But for the first year of an event like this, I was just talking to Sean, he had 600 people attend, not just register, attend this conference. The quality of the panel discussions, the quality of the individuals that were on the panels, I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Well, I think we all are when you think about what's going on here. And so let's talk crystal ball in the future. 5 years from now, it's a hard question for you because you can tangibly point to success or failure on it. Where is the whole bowl system like, and where's your organization in the middle of that?
That's an interesting question. I wish I knew the answer to that. That would make my job simpler. I do know one thing for sure. There's always going to be a place for the bowl system. As we said earlier, college football is such a great sport. It's so tradition based. Bowl games are just at the heart of the traditions of college football. We can't have 12 opportunities and everybody else goes home. So the majority of programs across the country still getting that sixth win in late October, early November, knowing you're going to a bowl game is a really big moment for them.
Patriots, Big East, you've been a lot of places. How excited are you to be in the middle of this?
I'm super excited. I've been blessed in my career. Rick, I'm going to write a book someday. Maybe you could help me with that. And
we're going to do it together. There's a lot of Syracuse people in the middle of my book now. Why not?
Yeah, so we're announcing our personal
together.
partnership right now. But it's going to be a book about process and how you get from one point to the next and how you find your passion along the way. And I've had 6 jobs in sports. I was a GA at Syracuse for Paul Pasqualoni. We went to the Fiesta Bowl, and kids today don't know that Syracuse was ever that good, but we were. I then worked at Notre Dame as recruiting coordinator. I worked for Bill Belichick in New England. I worked for Under Armour. Now I run bowl season. And, every job built upon itself. And the advice I give to young people is, every opportunity you have is going to be a great experience. And just every opportunity builds upon itself. You learn something new. You become better. You qualify yourself for the next job. And to answer your question, Rick, everything I've done to this point in my career has given me the skill set to do this job I have now as the executive director of bowl season.
Well, and as long as we're giving advice, let me give advice to the people of the CFP. As you evolve between now and December 20, which I guess is their D-Day, you better not lose this guy's number, and you better be hand in glove, because there aren't just 6. There are 40-something, and the entire system depends on a harmonic convergence of what has been there with what is coming, and that guy is a linchpin. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, speak with you soon.
Well, Nick clearly has some interesting perspective on all of this, but as we normally do, let's begin with what's happened in the last week or so, the top 5 issues, then we'll go to what's next. Well, first of all, the big college football season and the big settlement. There's an issue of how to deal with up to $4 billion of liability with the NCAA and the athletes. The College Players Union, which has a say, opposes the $2.8 billion settlement, at least now. The National College Players Association has claimed that the, quote, House settlement, which will compensate college athletes, is not big enough, and it may limit earning potential for those athletes. The $2.78 billion in damage payments to both former and current athletes is a big deal. But when you take a look at it, over the next 10 years, The damages may be paid in some ways by the NCAA. They'll cover many of these costs. And also, colleges will begin at the end of next year paying up to $20 million per year for athletes. There's certainly a share of these dollars. The NCAA avoided a trial where they could have been tried for damages of over $4 billion. But the real issue is now how to move forward and see if this all gets locked up as soon as the football season gets underway, which is now or shortly thereafter. That's number one. Number two, the NFL and their equity allowances now. $4.4 billion may change hands in the short term, assuming investors acquire 10% of each team, and each team worth an average of $5.5 to $6.5 billion. Those are numbers that are analyzed by Sportico and otherwise. But they didn't change, the NFL, any rules around minority stakes, the requirement that the owner control 30% of equity, and obviously, even though they've changed their rules, this is a 30% requirement, the most conservative of all sports leagues. The private equity funds in this new program capped at 3% to immediate family members. The partnerships are qualified Carlyle, CVC, Blackstone, Sixth Street, Ludus, a program that Curtis Martin actively involved in. And by the way, the league itself claims part of the profits. When an institutional investor has a stake in a team, it gives the NFL an opportunity to profit in the sale as well. Net, as little as 3% of a team can be purchased, meaning one team can involve itself in 3 private equity funds, but a single fund can't hold stakes in more than 6 teams. Fairly complicated, but it'll work itself out. There are a lot of teams that don't want to sell, but a lot of teams that are interested in getting the extra cash for a number of other reasons without giving up control. And that's number 2. Number 3, the Premier League transfer portal has hit new heights, by the way. Shelled out about 2.2 billion euros to bring new talent to the Premier League this summer. The Saudi Pro League finds itself behind the Europeans' Big Five in spending, down about 75% from last year. Not because the Saudis don't want to spend, but they spent last year on Ronaldo, Nasser, Neymar, Ruben Nieves. A lot of players bought last year. They will get into spending. There's Benzema, there's N'Golo Kante, there are others. So as we see the Saudis moving more into that space, we'll continue to see those numbers rise. So that's number 3. Number 4, let's look at rodeo. Barclays Center has a big rodeo event this year, but more important, the PBR as an entity, as a sports property, experienced a 23% increase in ticket sales between 2022 and 2023, selling out 30 separate events. Endeavor acquired them in 2015 for $100 million, turned around, leveraged the television assets, and when you look at the numbers, the airtime and otherwise, the existing audience of 31 million viewers on CBS last year, more expected this year. And the economic impact, for example, the Cheyenne Frontier Days, the largest rodeo in the U.S., reported its 2023 event generated $40 million for the local economy, like Houston, like the Calgary Stampede, and otherwise. So quite clearly, it is a big deal. Finally, that's number 4. Finally, number 5, as far as what's happened, well, Ohtani, the 50-50 man, by the way, he's only batting this year. What's going to happen next year when he pitches? Most expensive contract in major sports team history. He just signed a deal with Topps, a Fanatics company, for a revenue split. Game-used memorabilia cards focused on specific moments and specific memories, on-card autographs, on-card memorabilia. As much as $70 million of Ohtani's annual salary deferred, his overall earnings unrivaled with MLB thanks to his large collection of endorsements and marketing deals, now supplemented by the Topps Pact. And by the way, he and his dog Decoy were featured in a massive bobblehead deal at Dodger Stadium. We know more than 40,000 people effectively lined Dodger Stadium and got the bobblehead, and then many of them resold for as much as $2,000 on eBay and otherwise even higher. So Ohtani, obviously a great investment for the Dodgers and a great investment for baseball. Up next, what to look for the next 5 over the next couple of weeks. So look at the next 5 examples of where we're going over the next few weeks, and we start in Tampa, where Jeff Vinik has started the Tampa Bay Lightning sales process. Some would say it's going to net higher than $2 billion. That's what he's starting with, and it is a doubling of the record sale price the Ottawa Senators commanded last year. Vinik expected to retain a significant stake in the team he purchased for about $170 million in 2010. Under Vinik, the Lightning repeated as Stanley Cup champs 1919-1920, or 2020, and then 2020-2021. He made his fortune working in finance and also a part owner of the Boston Red Sox, and a hell of a real estate developer, by the way, downtown Tampa. One of the reasons why he will cash out but still retain some interest in the Lightning. He deserves it. So that's number 1. Number 2, down the road. Well, Brazil, first regular season NFL game, Friday, Packers, Eagles. But after that, what happens? Well, the NFL has appointed Luis Martinez as general manager of the operations in Brazil, and he will be heading the league's business interests and expansion across Brazil. He'll report to Garrett Meyer, managing director of NFL International. Part of his wider international expansion strategy, the NFL also intends to open an office in Sao Paulo under Martinez's leadership. He previously worked for the league in Mexico, so he's qualified as far as sales, marketing, and international expansion. And he's also previously marketing Hasbro in Chile, Peru, and Mexico. Strong experience in Latin American landscape. And after the game, look for him to take an active role in hitting the ground running. That's number 2 to look forward to. Number 3, Formula One, the growth of Formula One and AI, especially in tandem. Race strategies, broadcast, and sustainability. AI tools like StatBox, streamlining data analysis. The move to the cloud-based operations also significantly increases the opportunities for efficiency and decreases the need for physical equipment transport, which will enhance Formula One's ambition to be sustainable. The AI impact on race strategies has been particularly significant, with advanced simulations allowing teams to factor in the influence of all 20 cars in the grid, making it much more efficient than it ever was before. And the application of AI, however, listen to this, is not without limitations. An internal report said it must be, quote, contextualized to ensure it enhances human decision making rather than replacing it. We should all focus on that for all items of AI. Let's see how it all works out. Number 4, the NBA, NFL, election time. Paul Tagliabue brought the two leagues basically together, with Roger Goodell and Adam Silver taking the next step. Vet the vote is the NFL issue, and the NBA has poll worker recruitment day, election night, November 5. We're all looking to that for a lot of reasons. NBA has Get Out the Vote t-shirts. NFL has a NFL Votes between weeks 8 and 9 of the season, enlisting Kelvin Beachum of the Cardinals, Deion Dawkins of the Bills, Adam Thielen of the Cardinals, of the Panthers, Raheem Mostert of the Dolphins, and on. And the NFL VOTA campaign, very important as well. Look, it's important for a lot of issues, but including important for the sports to get involved regardless of your party affiliation. And then number 5, finally, Gen Z and a partnership in Saudi Arabia. They'll announce, that company, a new hub in Riyadh. The announcement comes along with the Esports World Cup, and it marks the bottom line of things that are happening long term. The Saudi Esports Federation to bring the courses alive. Gen Z announced the offering of a new building for GCA near the company's headquarters in Seoul. And when you look at Rocket League, PUBG Mobile, NBA 2K, they are big, as well as Monster Energy, LG Ultra Gear, carmaker Hyundai, and institutional partners like the University of Kentucky. It's growing, it's grown, and it'll grow even more. Look for that in the future. Those are the top 5 to look forward to. We talked about the top 5 over the last couple of weeks. We'd like to thank all of you for being involved, the bowl season and what they're bringing to the business of this. We would like to thank our friends not only from SEICon for making a lot of this available, but also to Nick Carparelli for being involved in a vision to harmonize bowls in the future. We'll see how that all shakes out. I'd like to thank you for listening and watching. Join us once again next week. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, you're on the record.